So yeah, I just want to kick things off. Curious, what was happening in your organization that led you to look for a dam, and what were some of the challenges you were facing?
Sure. And thanks for having me, Chris. Really, we're going to go back to 2019. And this was a time period when basically we had every department storing files, different areas. Some people were using Dropbox, some people were using Box, some people were storing things on external hard drives on their own computers. Um, and as you can imagine, a lot of stuff gets lost. A lot of productivity is slowed down trying to search for things, find things. That's not to mention how difficult that process is with a global team. So, that was a challenge in itself. So that's pretty much what brought us to the table to discuss how a dam can make our organization much more efficient.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely a common one that I hear from most of my clients, the discoverability, the time savings, and yeah, just having that time where you kind of email someone and you're waiting for them to respond just to get get something that exists, but you can't really find where it is for sure. I was wondering if you
And
could,
Chris, if
yeah,
I don't mind, just expand upon that.
yeah,
We were operating like that's the norm. This is going back,
right,
5 years ago. That was how the company had operated. And as we scaled, that's when you started to see how that just not sustainable for a growing company who's global. But for us, it was normal. So
yeah.
when we found a dam, we were like, we had to tell people like, listen, you have to trust this process. It's going to make it so much better.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, could you chat a little bit about how you're using the dam today and how it's been kind of helping you meet some of those goals?
Yeah, the interesting thing about our dam use case is we timed it as far as launching the dam right around the time we went through our first brand refresh. So a 20-year company getting a brand new logo, a brand new brand guidelines, a whole new system of typography and icons and rules. So launching with the dam was huge because we could control our brand image and make sure that everybody was sharing files that were approved. So our number one use for the dam was from a marketing perspective, was to store all of our brand assets so that whenever somebody would need a logo or a PowerPoint deck or a formal letterhead, something like this, they would go to the dam, get it. They would know it's the most up to date file, and that it was approved across the organization. And with that also being self-service, you don't have to go.
Hmm.
So someone in the APAC region doesn't have to reach out to our people here in the Miami area and wait for a response for 12 hours. They could just go to the dam, know that that's the spot. That's our number one case for the dam, what we're using it for. But we've also expanded, brought in other departments. We store a lot of video and photography files in there, historical references of stuff. We don't really keep a lot of working files in there. We kind of shy away from putting stuff in there, but we put a lot of approved assets.
Awesome. Thank you. And I also understand you're kind of a heavy power user of the AVI, the audio video index tool, to support a lot of the live events that you're doing all around the world. So I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about that and maybe some of the features that you're using with that tool.
Yeah, our team creates a lot of video content around our products and our events. And video is one of those projects. Anytime you're in a video project, there's a lot of different softwares and different companies that need to be involved in the editing process and the brainstorming. And Media Valley's been able to take us away from a few of those and consolidate with just the dam. For example, the storage, obviously the storage is going to be there, but also the transcription. We used to have to pay for a transcription service. Now we could just have the AVI run the video intelligence and give us a transcript of the entire video and in multiple languages. We have products that are in over 10 different languages. So to be able to really quickly identify those. Now, it's just like any other intelligent transcription or captioning service. You got to review it. It's
Mhm.
not perfect. For example, we had to teach it to learn ACAMS. It didn't really understand what people were saying with ACAMS. It's obviously an acronym. So there are some things like that, but it's a game changer for us because we don't have to pay so much in our transcription services that we were paying.
Awesome. Yeah. It seems like AI is all the buzz these days. So it's great to hear that it's saving you time and money by consolidating some services there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I was curious, what kind of results, now that you've been with Media Valley for a few years, have you seen? I think you touched on some of them, time savings, consolidation. Is there any data that you have, or any kind of anecdotes that you can share with anyone?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're going on year five, I believe, four or five, and we're on pace this year for 15,000 plus assets going into the dam. We have over 40,000 assets. Um, it's really hard to track the efficiency, but it's there, as far as the data on that. I know we try to do some formulas on that, but it's basically just someone like me. You're saving me almost an hour a day, couple hours a week, of my time searching for stuff. Before we had the dam, I was the dam. I was the person that stored all the files, had control, had the organization. So everybody knows that. So everybody reaches out to James to get a picture of this speaker because they requested it for their LinkedIn photo, or so historically look up, what was the design of the podium last year at the Abu Dhabi conference. So there are these things that, now our team, with the self-service and the autonomy to go into the dam and find these stuff themselves, frees me up, also frees them up, obviously, because they can find it quick rather than wait for me, who may be backlogged with other requests coming in. So huge. Not to mention, one thing that I saw that's really hard to quantitate as well, from a team perspective, is we would just lose assets. So when I would talk about, hey, reach out to James, go find this asset, in some cases you would just say, you know what, I don't even want to do that. Let me just recreate this asset. So you would
Right.
have people, rather than go and find the asset, because it could be difficult to find, they would just recreate. So we would duplicate costs on design. It's just a time saver and cost saver for sure in that respect.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great story. I've been hearing that a lot too, actually, from some of my clients. It's not something you necessarily think of, the recreation of files, but everyone's kind of had that experience where you stumble upon it, you think, oh, wait a minute, I just did that. So yeah, the kind of removal of duplicates is actually quite important.
Absolutely. And one thing too to add on that we don't discuss enough probably, is the fact that a certain asset, like a fact sheet on a product, can
Mhm.
have like 7 to 8, 9, 10 different versions. And
Mhm.
depending on when you reach out to search for it, did you get the right version? And if you work upon, like, so maybe it has 8 versions, but you grabbed 5 and you start to create new edits to that 5. Now, the pricing's wrong. We give that out to sales. Sales sends it. Now we have issues with the customer. That's one big factor too, as well. That chaos that it could happen without a dam.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on versioning, because that's another big deal, having different versions floating out. Everyone's not using the same up-to-date version for sure. I'm curious if you kind of maybe have like a hot dam moment, experience where you were impressed with Media Valley and the dam, or where it really helped you out, achieve something pre-event, post-event, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I'll give you one that's new in the past few months, is the facial recognition.
Hmm.
I think it's fantastic. So we actually, we give an award out every year, for the it's called, the AFC Person of the Year Award, Anti-Financial Crime Person of the Year Award, and it's at our Las Vegas conference. And we want to have a plaque, and we want to create a collage. And somebody reached out to me in our communications department and wanted some photos of that person throughout the years from the events. They've been coming to our events for 20 years. So that would have been a huge mountain of a task in the past. However, now we find one picture of that person, tag that person, and then boom, in real time, it shot 150 photos right there, populated. I'm able to select them all, share it. It's done. Took 10 seconds. That's something that in the past you would spend a few days on.
Yeah.
It was just, it's crazy how fast the turnaround time on that was, and that was a hot damn moment.
I'm curious. So given the, you know, the time frame that this person's been, you know, at different conferences, I imagine they would have aged a little bit, but you had no
Yeah,
issues with the tool. It was able to pick them up from, you know, 10 years ago to today.
even with some hair color change. Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
You know, there was some hair color difference, and it still found them.
really cool. Yeah. Amazing,
Yeah,
amazing
I was
tools with
surprised
AI.
too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Switching gears, I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about your experience kind of implementing the dam, what that was like, and you know, your experience there.
Yeah, it was a huge process. Because like I said, our normal was to operate the way it is, and sometimes change can be difficult, especially if it's not, you know, explained properly, you know, what's the why. Um, so we had a good implementation process. We waited until we had the dam on our back end with the power users, how they wanted organized as far as
Mhm.
categorization goes. We worked with you and the team there at Media Valet to help us with a training program. And then we launched to the whole organization, a couple hundred people globally. We held a few different training times so that different people could join from different regions. And it was a complete success. We launched with a sort of a how-to video that we created that had basically some of the, you know, pathways to find some of the most sought after assets that we thought people would be looking for, and some of the features of Media Valet. Although Media Valet is a incredibly user friendly system, we just thought it'd be helpful to have a little bit of a guidance on, you know, how to share assets and how to download assets, that type of stuff.
For
But
sure.
it was great. We, you know, we launched and we had great feedback. We didn't really get a lot of questions. To be fair, the number one question that I always get, you know, after we launched or when a new user gets onboarded is if their password doesn't work. And, you know, it's obviously just a forgot password kind of thing, a user error.
Yeah, there's always that little button there. I do like how you did things too with the kind of your own flair on the training video and the how to. You know, we try our best to train our clients, but there's always client specific workflows, specific assets that they're looking for. So it's always good to have our champion kind of come in and do a little help there. I guess the kind of last question I was curious about, for all those watching today, if you could maybe share some advice on if, you know, if anyone watching today is looking at DAM, looking at implementing a DAM, you know, having gone through that process, what advice could you give them, maybe in some tips?
Yeah. So I feel like for me, my mindset has changed on this a little bit. When we first got a dam, I basically was looking for the dam that would fit us. And I knew that, you know, we were scaling a lot, and we really needed the best dam out there. And my advice in the beginning to other people that I had talked to that were in the you know, the marketing community that were looking for dams, I used to tell them, just get the dam that fits you. Maybe, you know, you don't need the one that is the best or the most powerful. Just get one that works for you and go from there. And then over time, now going on 4 or 5 years of the dam, I just think to myself that that was actually bad advice, because as your company grows, you do not want to change dams. I couldn't think, I would be so terrible right now if I had to change dams and move all these assets and recategorize and retrain a whole community of colleagues on a dam. So my thought process is, advice on anybody that's looking to get a dam is to really do your research, and try to get the best possible dam out there that you can get, because you're going to grow into it as well. Um, and the other thing too that was big in our decision making process that weighed heavy on it was customer support. There are some dams out there that we looked at, and we did a lot of demos. We did about a half dozen demos with the top tier candidates in the dam industry, and there's a clear difference on support. So some dams are great, don't have great support on the back end, and that's something that we really value, and that's why we weighted so heavily in our decision.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I do love the suggestion. Get your hands on it. You know, go do a demo and see what the kind of what the support is there. I think James, we may have a question in the
Yeah.
chat. Ian, thanks for sharing. Let me read it out. Was it challenging getting all your files from the likes of Dropbox and computers employees into the DAM?
Yeah.
Expand
Yeah,
a
it
little.
was. It was challenging because the first start of the first part of that whole process is identifying where are the files that we need.
Right, the audit.
And then what are the files we don't want to go into the DAM? We don't want to just because we have a file doesn't mean it needs to go into the DAM. Like, so we didn't want to flood, especially in the beginning, the DAM with assets that really were outdated or not necessary or working files. So it was really challenging. That was a challenging process. I mean, our whole implementation process, probably 6 to 8 months before we launched. I mean, we're working in the DAM on the back end, getting it ready, doing this this challenge, as Ian correctly pointed out. It was a challenge to find all those stuffs, identify them, see what's needed, what's not needed. I'm sure there were things we missed, but we did try to backdate it historically as much as we could, because you don't want to lose some of that historical reference from your company. For example, we hit 25 years recently, and we wanted to do a collage through the years and that type of stuff with just different assets, journals from previous conferences, or our first magazine cover, these type of things. So we did want to historically find some of that stuff. So there was a challenge. Getting stuff off of computers of employees is almost impossible. You got to identify who has the assets and then give them the training to make them an uploader, to get files in there and correctly the way that you want them categorized, and the keywords and stuff like that. And then what's really tough is, and why we got into a DAM once again, is if people have stuff on their computers and then they resign or are no longer with the organization, you lose that stuff. It's gone forever. So having things in the DAM and a cloud, is the only way now that we should be storing files.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah. From my end, the asset audit is definitely one of the longest pieces of implementing a DAM. So yeah, for anyone watching, I'd recommend, there's no time like the present to start. Just get a good, get a sense of where your files are, how many you have, and yeah, it's always a good time to start. There's another question here. How are you able to ensure that people are not using outdated assets? Wondering if you have any workflows around that and how you manage.
It's not completely impossible that it could happen. However, what's nice is that Media Valley has a setup to do this process perfectly. And once again, as far as DAMs go, I only know Media Valley. I don't know if there's a feature anywhere else, but what's really beautiful about Media Valley is they have version control. So if we upload an asset and then there's a change to that asset, and once again, I'll just use a product fact sheet as a great example because it has pricing and dates on it. So pricing changes. So now everybody has that asset either bookmarked, or they have a CDN link of it to a website or in an email. What you can now do, what we found, is you can go into the DAM and check out that file and then upload the new file, and then that file is no longer outdated, right? So we basically have trained our marketing managers and the people who are responsible for the assets, that they have to have them up to date. As soon as they get a new file done, it's approved through all the stakeholders. It goes right to the DAM to combat outdated assets.
Awesome. Yeah, CDN links are great actually use for that as well. And I just also wanted to mention Media Valley has a little notification bell, so you can actually follow assets. So I've got a bunch of clients where their whole sales team is following the sell sheets. And so anytime there's an updated pricing, or maybe, some product information might change, they get an email saying, hey, there's a new version, the one that you're using might be out of date. So that's another great way to stay on top of new versions. One more question here. Have you set up different levels of accessibility for users within ACAMS, so different permission groups perhaps?
We have, but with caution, and I'll say that because I think the different levels of accessibility create the possibility of some mistakes or something like that. We have a core DAM team, a team within the organization who are the core users, the core operators of the upload process. We like to kind of keep that level there. And keep 90%, 95% of the colleague base, just in the ability to view, download, share. But as far as accessibility, as far as some of the other features, even some of the features that are paid features, we kind of try to keep that to a smaller, tight-knit team. We're not an organization yet that has a DAM librarian. I understand that some organizations hire an actual person that is just dedicated to the DAM. All day, every day, and that's awesome. Hopefully we kind of get to that level. But until we have that, we have to, as a team, handle most of the features of the DAM, including the upload process.
Thank you. Well, I believe that is the last of the questions, if there's none more. Just wanted to thank you, James, for taking the time and share your experience and knowledge about implementing a DAM, using the DAM, and some of the features that we talked about today. Ian, thank you so much for setting this up.
Yes, thank you, Ian. Thank you, Chris. I hope it was helpful to everybody on the call.
Yeah, and if there's any other questions, that you think of later today for any of our viewers, please shoot us an email. I'll be happy to help.
Awesome.